Okay, everybody, welcome to another beautiful class. Ich have the Rebbe on this week's portion, beautiful Sikha, which is the portion of Emor. Emor is a fascinating portion. It deals with the Karbonis. Deals with the Kohanim. Starts off with the priest. The laws of the priest, who they marry, etc., and who they allow them purify themselves to. And then the Torah goes into the sacrifices of the year, the celebrations, the holidays of the year, starting off from Pesach, and it going till the end of all the celebrations, all the Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Beautiful, tells us all the different holidays that Yidden celebrate throughout the entire year. But there's an interesting verse in between all the celebrations that were done in the year, and in the time of the Beis Hamikdash was the obligation to bring the sacrifices on the different holidays, and there was called Eilos Regel. The holiday was called a regel because it was the obligation to go up at foot. You're supposed to go to Yerushalayim. You're supposed to go to Jerusalem on the holiday of Passover and the holiday of Shavuos and the holiday of Sukkot. There was an obligation to go to the Beis Hamikdash. Excuse me. Not so much not on the holiday of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. It was not an obligation to go to the Beis Hamikdash on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. But there was the holidays, those three holidays, the main holidays, where there was an obligation for every Jew to go to the Beis Hamikdash. The Rebbe is going to focus on a verse in between the holidays. If you on the Chitas, you will remember this verse and the Rashi on this verse. This starts off in text number 1 on page 35 in the book. I hope everybody has his book at home. Those that are on Zoom, so you'll be able to follow the class. It will be a good thing. If you don't have the book, please call the office, 487-2934. There's still many more weeks to this book. So it would be good to have the book. So we're holding a text number 1, page 35. And the Torah says as follows: in the middle of all the holidays, after the Torah finishes off about Passover, the Torah suddenly throws in a verse. And this is the verse that he throws in. This is Leviticus 23:22. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not completely remove the corners of your field during your harvesting. Meaning that you have to leave. These are the laws of Leket, Shikha, and Peah. 3 basic laws. We'll bring it down. The next text is the law of Maimonides, but this is the verse. So Pasotcha is the corner of your field. So as you go around the 4 corners of your field, you need to leave over the corner. I don't give you amount how much of the corner, but you have to leave over the corner. Don't corner off your field. That is the concept of Peah. Then the Torah continues, and you shall not gather up the gleaning of your harvest. Meaning, as you'll learn in a moment, the Torah says that you should leave over 1 or 2 stalks. Or if you forgot shikha, you have to leave it over in the field. So after you harvest your field, hopefully there'll be the corners, and there'll be other parts of the field that the ani and the poor man can come. As the Torah says, "La'ani lager tazev v'isab," you shall leave it for the poor. Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am God your God. And that's the law. What's the law? So the law is in text number 2 is the actual law. This is Maimonides. Maimonides in the laws of the gift to the poor. Maimonides says that a person harvests their field, they should not harvest the entire field. Instead, they should leave a small portion of standing grain at the end of the field. As the verse says, do not remove completely the grain, leave the corners of your field when reaping. This prohibits, the prohibition applies to one who reaps and one who uproots. The grain left standing is referred to as peah. Peah means a corn. Similarly, regard to leket. When one harvests or binds his sheaves, they should not gather the stalks that fall during the harvest. I'm gathering of a feed, suddenly one or two stalks fall out of the bundle. Leave it there. You shall not gather the gleaning of your harvest. If it drops off, let it lay on the ground. Gather the rest, take it with you at home, but leave those things that fall away from you. Similarly, if a person is buying the sheaves of wheat into a bundle, forgets one bundle, you should leave it there. Don't worry. Leket, shikha, and pay. These are the three things when it comes to concerning the harvesting the field. Leket, shikha, and pay. Leave it there to the poor. Leave it there to the poor. So that's what the pasuk says. That's the law of leket, shikha, and pay. That's for a farmer, self-understood. If you don't have a field, you don't have this mitzvah. This mitzvah of leket, shikha, and pay, and the prohibition of take meat. So the question is really not the mitzvah. It's a beautiful mitzvah, but the question is, what does it have to do in middle? Why would the Torah throw it into the middle of the portion? Rashi is also bothered by that question. What does it have to do with the holidays and the sacrifices of the holidays? So Rashi brings out, Avdimi taught in the name of Rabbi Yosef, text number 3. The Torah places the mitzvah of leket, shikha, and peah in the middle of the discussion of the temple service to teach us that fulfilling this mitzvah properly, doing the mitzvah of leket, shikha, and peah properly, is equivalent to building the temple and offering sacrifices. So this is an interesting expression in Rashi itself. Rashi says that this mitzvah specifically, the mitzvah of leket, shikha, and peah, is equivalent to the building bana beis hamikdash. It's an interesting expression. What do you mean? Bana beis hamikdash. After that, so you know the Hebrew. You look in the Hebrew. Kila bana beis hamikdash. When I do leket, shikha, and peah, when I do this mitzvah, then it's as if I built the temple. And I brought sacrifices. So why is it? Why does Avdimi say that? Why does Rashi bring it down in this pasuk specifically? That this mitzvah leket, shikha, and peah is equivalent to the building of the Beis Hamikdash. So what is the law? What is leket, shikha, and peah? What's so special about this mitzvah? It's charity, but it's more than charity, as you'll soon see in a moment. So in text number 4, he brings down a Gemara, beautiful story. The Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was traveling from Jerusalem together with Rabbi Yeshua when they passed the ruins of the temple. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai lived in the time of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And they passed the ruins of the temple. Yeshua said, "Woe unto us! The place where Israel's sins are forgiven is now destroyed. Woe unto us!" It's a sad situation. Not my son, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, there is a similar source of forgiveness. What is those? Acts of kindness. Gemilas chasad. Chasadim is not just chesed, is not just the concept of chesed or tzedakah. Gemilas chasadim is more than tzedakah. Tzedakah is money. Milas chasadim is acts of kindness. It's a concept of the acts of kindness. Leket, shikha, and peah is not just charity, because actually the person that comes and collects it is nobody's going to be there when he collects it. So you're not giving the poor man anything. You're leaving it there. You're doing a gemilas chesed. You're doing an act of kindness. You're doing an act of kindness, meaning that in essence, I'm not, as this class is going to go through, I'm not receiving. The essence of Gemilas Chesed is that I'm not receiving something from it. I'm doing an act of kindness for the sake of the act of kindness, right? So this guy who went into the field, he cut the corners of his he went away. Now, who's going to come into this land? Which poor man? If there'll be a poor man who says anybody will come into his land, maybe he'll cut the corners of he'll cut the field, and he'll walk away, and then nobody will come to his land. But that's not the point. The point is not that there is somebody coming or not. The point is that I'm doing an act of kindness. I'm gemilas chesed, doing an act of kindness. I'm not doing it for any self-gratification. I'm not doing it for any personal gain. I'm doing it because there's a concept to be and to do an act of kindness. I took out a siddur because we say every day in the morning in our davening, if you have a siddur next to you, page number 9, number 10, number 9. So over there, the Mishnah says also, these are the precepts, the fruits which a man enjoys in this world, while the principal reward remains in the world to come. And he says as follows, these are the things, Ve'elohein, kibud avein, honoring your father and mother, performing gemilas chasadim, and performing deeds of kindness. To attend to the house of study, morning, hospitality, so like the how to cut it with hospitality to strangers, visiting the sick, dowering the bride, escorting the dead, concentration and prayer. So bringing peace between man and his fellow man, between your husband and wife, etc. Acts of kindness, gemilas chasadim. So of this mitzvah. The question is, so it's a beautiful mitzvah, gemilas chasadim, acts of kindness. What does that bonus really? It has nothing to do with, what does acts of kindness have to do with the sacrifices? Really, the Beis Hamikdash, the temple, and the karbanis would seemingly be another mitzvah. So we have in text number 5. Text number 5, it says, Abishur Melevi Oma, Abishur Melevi said, Tfilis keneged karbanis tikna. That prayer was established instead of a carbon. That's why it was taught in the Bryce, in accordance with the opinion of Abishur Melevi. Why may the morning prayer recite until the noon? Why we daven shachris morning until the noon? Because the daily morning offering may be sacrificed until the noon. And why do we die to the afternoon service recite until the evening? Because the daily afternoon offering is sacrificed until the evening. And why do we say the evening prayer not fixed? It can be done the whole night. Because the burned limbs and the fats of the offering that were not consumed by the fire of the altar did not occur until evening, they will remain on the altar and offered continuous throughout the entire night. If there were a lot of sacrifices in a day, and the Kohanim didn't have time enough to bring it up by evening, by the sunset, which that ended the sacrifices of the day, they were there the whole night. Could have been sometimes the whole night. They made sure to bring all the sacrifices that were brought during the day, and they were sacrificed already. You weren't allowed to sacrifice another sacrifice. Animals that were sacrificed already, they would bring it up the whole night. So the truth is that prayer is really connected to the Beis Hamikdash. If you want to have a mitzvah that's connected to the temple, is prayer. And that's why we go to shul 3 times a day, shachas, mincha, and we do mincha ma'ariv together for those 3 concepts. So why did the rabbis say that additional prayer may be recited all day? Because additional offering were brought throughout the entire day. So there were certain offerings like the musaf was brought the entire day. So really, prayer would be the better thing to put into the middle of the sacrificial offerings of the holidays. Wouldn't prayer be a better mitzvah than the mitzvah of charity or gemilas chasadim? Why would Rashi, why would the Torah, and according to Rashi's explanation, that the Torah put this because it's very important to the Torah as the Beis Hamikdash and the sacrificial offerings is Gemilas Chasadim, is acts of kindness. It's really the concept of prayer. That's the true concept. Really, we have to understand what is a sacrifice. What is the kavana of bringing a sacrifice to God? And there's a beautiful Ramban, and it's in text number 6, a beautiful Ramban, which explains reasons of sacrifice. Why were we commanded to do sacrifices? The Ramban says as follows: human functions executed through the vehicle of thought, speech, and action. As such, God commanded when a person sins and brings an offering, they should lay their hands on the animal. Why do you need to lay your hands on the animal? Because laying your hands on the animal, your hands symbolizes action. What you did, negative action. Then they verbally confess. They say vidui. They confess their sins because that resembles speech. The animal innards and kidneys are then burnt in fire, mirroring those limbs which a human body are known to be instruments of thought and desire in a human being. So that's the essence. We take the animal's innards because we're showing, we're in essence bringing about the burning of our essence, of our thoughts, of our inner desires. The animal legs are burned, mirroring the sinner's hands and feet that did all the work. They walk. You walk to my walk to the sin, my actions of the sin. The animal's blood is then sprinkled upon the altar, which is analogous to the blood of the sinner's body. So a person, in essence, the concept of a sacrifice, when a Jew brought a sacrifice, he had to look, the Ramban, Nachmanides, says he has to look as if he's being brought as a sacrifice, thus substituting it into an animal, but really he needs to be brought on a sacrifice. He needs to be the one. He needs to sacrifice his thoughts. He needs to sacrifice his speech. He needs to sacrifice his actions. He needs to sacrifice every part of his body that was involved in this situation. Perform so that the person should realize that they have sinned against God with their body and their soul. Really, it should be their blood getting spilled, their body being burned, were it not for the loving kindness of the Creator, who took a substitute and a ransom, namely this offering. Before I actually had the chmanis on this poor animal that is ready to give up its life. Maybe not ready, is giving up its life. But really, it should be me who's giving up their life. I'm the sinner. The animal didn't sin, but God, in His compassion, said, "Okay, I'm willing to create a substitute." Namely, this offering. The animal's blood is placed in the sinner's blood. His life in place of the sinner's life. His chief limbs of the offering in place of the chief parts of the sinner's body. So the truth is, the more I had compassion, the more I felt the animal was me, the more the purpose of the sacrifice was accomplished. That's why ultimately the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, because people didn't take it as a true substitute. Why not? I'll go and sin and let the poor sheep be brought as a sacrifice. So the Torah wanted that it should be, don't just bring an animal and get away with it. You need to really have the thought that you are being done. You really need to, it's a substitute. Somebody else is giving up its life so that you would be able to live. These are worthy words that Rambam writes. These are words that Ramban writes. Nachmani says, these are worthy words that appeal to the heart as do the words of Agadah. So this is a real great concept of sacrificial offering. Can there be another example in Jewish law to this concept? What other aspect in Jewish law can there be an analogy to this concept, the concept of a sacrifice? Where else does a person do a mitzvah in the Torah that he gives of himself to somebody else? And that's tzedakah. That's why it's tzedakah. That's why Gemilas Chasadim is analogous to sacrifice. There's no other mitzvah you do that you're ready to give yourself over to somebody else. You're ready to give of yourself. Take from your money, take from your time, take from yourself and give it to somebody else. That's what Alter Rebbe says in text number 7. The mitzvah of tzedakah is given disproportionate importance in all Jewish literature, with such statement as it's equivalent to all other mitzvahs. The Jerusalem Talmud uses the term as mitzvah. It's the mitzvah. If you want to know what is the mitzvah, that's the concept of Gemilas Chasadim, or tzedakah, even tzedakah, charity. But over here, it's going to go even deeper, because there's tzedakah, there's charity, and there's Gemilas Chasadim, there's acts of kindness. Without any qualifier as a reference to tzedakah, and was a common practice then. This is because tzedakah is considered to be the most important practical mitzvah. Why is it so? The purpose of every mitzvah is to transform the person and to carry over his or her very life to God. That's really the essence. Like the carbon was really not just to go and do an act of good, a good act. No, you brought the carbon, you brought the sacrifice because you're supposed to have felt that as if you were the sacrifice. Think about it. With any other mitzvah, only once out of the person is invested in this action. I put on tefillin today. My hand was involved. I pray, my mouth is involved. Even if my heart is involved in prayer. If I do, there's a particular part of me, one or two parts of me, or three parts of me that are doing this mitzvah. But it's not the whole circumference of my existence. Even my whole body is not involved in every mitzvah. By contrast, a person invested their entire being into money, they earn. Every person that does that involved in work and making a living legally, ethically, and morally, understands how much work and how much effort every part of him was involved in making this money. Waking up early, his going to work, his thought, his thinking about work, his intentions, his everything that his whole being is involved. I'm talking about if we do it al pi halacha, if we do it according to Jewish law, we do it legally and morally and ethically. It's unbelievable how much of ourselves are involved in it. And through our hard labor, we receive something back. We receive money through our labor. We have invested our whole being into money, into this money that I've acquired. So when then he goes ahead and gives it away to tzedakah, I take this money I acquired, I worked hard for, I've labored for, my whole being has labored for this, and I take this money, I give it to tzedakah, give it to somebody else, so then my entire being is being invested in this mitzvah. So it's money that I've received with my labor, it's money that I received through my hard labor, being my whole entity being involved in this concept, and now I've given it, like that's the power of the mitzvah of tzedakah. But what about someone who does not enjoy their work? How can we argue that they are completely invested in that money? So maybe what about a person who does not eat? You ask him how's his work, he says it's miserable. To make enough money. With the money that he can brought anything of their own personal use, but still, any money that I could have went out and bought my own for myself, and by giving it away, They are indeed giving away their very life for God. And that's why tzedakah is the greatest mitzvah. Thing is connected to this mitzvah because the truth is, every mitzvah should be done that way. Every mitzvah should be done with your whole existence. You shouldn't do a mitzvah halfway. Everything should be done 100%. And when we do every mitzvah, we should do it with our 100%, with all the faculties of our being, whether it's intellect, emotion, physically. We should do every mitzvah 100% in every aspect of our life. And that's the beauty of tzedakah. That is tzedakah. Thus, our sages stated, tzedakah hastens the redemption. Donation submits so much to donor's energy and life, something that we would have been impossible even after many other mitzvahs. We accomplish it with one mitzvah. That's what the Rebbe was very into tzedakah. And he was so much into tzedakah that he gave you money to give tzedakah. He would give out people $1 that they should give tzedakah. People to give tzedakah. And he did this constantly. That Yidden to give tzedakah, to do the mitzvah tzedakah. Because he believed, and as the Gemara says, there's no greater mitzvah to bring about the redemption of Jewish people, but through the acts of kindness, the acts of kindness that they do on a constant basis. The Rebbe says in text number 8, the comparison of the gift to the poor, to the offering of the sacrifice is obvious. When a person offers a sacrifice, they give something of themselves to God. Tzedakah, the carbon is to the Eibishter, right? The Jew he worked hard, and then he took the money, bought an animal, and majority of the animal was not his. And sometimes was totally not his. Was given up as a sacrifice. The same occurs when they're donating gifts to the poor. The donor gives away their possession to another person by God's command, to give it away. That's it. The Eibishter asked us to give things to others, but and to help others. Okay, talk in general. What is the concept of Gemilas Chasadim? The difference between tzedakah, I'm helping a poor person. There's a poor man out there, I give him $1, I give him $10, whatever. Or I help an organization, whatever tzedakah is. And the concept of Gemilut Chasadim, the acts of kindness. So here, the Rebbe goes into the aspect of what Gemilut Chasadim really means. What's the essence of tzedakah? If you learn in the Rambam, Maimonides gives you 8 levels of charity. The highest level of charity is, the Rambam writes, is to give a guy a loan, to give a guy a job. That's really the highest level of charity. To give a guy a loan or to give a guy a job. Know that loan in Jewish law, what a loan society is called in the Hebrew, they were called gemach. The gemach, the free loan society, it's called the gemach. And what gemach is gimel mem ches, and that stands for gemilas chasadim. That means if you really want to know what gemilas chasadim is, a free loan, free interest loan. That is gemilas chasadim, free interest loan. Why is that gemilas chasadim just a free interest loan? Because you're not gaining anything. You're getting the money back. Right? Getting the money back. That's intentionally that you should get the money back. Why is it unbelievable to give a guy a loan? Then better does to give him charity, because it makes the person feel that he's still a mensch, right? You're right. If you don't have the money to give back, you'll ultimately be charity. But when a person comes forward and says, "Listen, I don't want a charity, but I don't want to be a schnorrer. I want you to help me. I want you to give me a loan, a non-interest loan, right? So here, give me this loan, and I'll pay you back in a year or whatever." And now you made the person not lose his dignity. to give a guy a job. The same thing. That makes the person feel that he's a mensch. He's not here coming for just a freebie, just a concept of charity. I need money. No, he's coming here to receive the money and for either for the work that I'm doing or for the loan that I'm going to pay. With Shem, I'll get back on my feet and I'll pay you back the loan. That's Gemilas Chasadim. Gemilas Chasadim is an act of kindness that I do without any kind of a return to me. You know, Lubavitch Rebbe wanted that every shul should have a Gemilas Chasadim. That means a person shouldn't even go over to another person for a loan. They should come to the organization and get the loan. So now that's even greater because the organization gives the loan. They give the loan from the money that people give them to give the loan. And now the person that receives the loan is not receiving it from anybody, receiving it from an organization. So it makes him even feel better, right? Because he doesn't have to, when he passes this person on the street that gave the money to this organization, he doesn't even know that was the person who gave the money for the loan. And he has to feel differently to him or show him any kind of reverence. No, he went to the organization gave him the loan. Now, finish. He has this money, and he knows that the organization gave him the loan from who knows how many people gave money to this organization for that loan concept. That is no. So it's even better. It's even much better to have a free loan society, gemach, where people could come and they deal with an organization than dealing with a personal person. In the Beis Hamikdash. In the Beis Hamikdash, there was a great celebration. And it was actually done on Tu B'Av. It says there was no greater holiday than Tu B'Av. Most of us remember the Gemara, the Talmud said there was no greater celebration on Tu B'Av because there was a day when the ladies, the young girls went out and there was shidduchim. There were marriage, were brought. No, but the Gemara gives a different reason. It was called Gala Eitzim. It was called the end of the axe. Because on Tu B'Av was the height of the summer. After Tu B'Av, it started to cool down in Israel. And that's when the last of the people that donated the wood to the Beis Hamikdash were families that would go out into the fields, to the forest, chop down. The Beis Hamikdash needed a lot of wood throughout the year. They had actually a lishkas eitzim. There was a room in the Beis Hamikdash that stored all this wood. It's a lot of wood. The Mizbeach also constantly had to fire. Trust me, to keep a fire on, even a little fire, you need a lot of wood. There was a lot of wood needed in the temple. This wood was donated. And there was certain families that would always do this. They would go out into the field. Nobody even knew who these families were. They were non-entities, so to say. And the Chachamim realized that we needed to make a celebration for these unknown families. These families, these Jews that went out during the summer to cut this wood and to bring it to the Beis Hamikdash, to donate it, and nobody knew who they were. And they didn't know even that the wood was going to be used. They just brought the wood. A lot of times the wood couldn't be used. It was wormy, it was not good wood. But they didn't know, it was not important to them. What was important to them to bring the wood. And the wood was only used for the carbon. So we know who brought the carbon and we know who brought up the carbon. We know everything about the sacrifice. But what about the wood? What about those people that brought up the wood and gave the capability to bring the sacrifice? Nobody seemingly knows who they were. The rabbis made a celebration for them to make sure that they were recognized as special people. Gemilas Chasadim, who did Gemilas Chasadim. They did it for the sake of bringing wood to the Beis Hamikdash. They didn't bring it for anything else. They were not interested in being known. They were not interested in being announced. They were not looking for the plaque. They were looking that the Beis Hamikdash would have wood for the entire year, and that everybody else would be able to bring sacrifices in the Beis Hamikdash. So everybody else from the entire year, from Av to the next year of, all enjoyed these Jews, Gemilas Chasadim, who showed acts of kindness and gave wood to the Beis Hamikdash. That's what the text of Menayim. Maimonides says, what is the day of the wood sacrifice? Certain families had a fixed times in which they would bring out to the forest and bring wood to pile over the altar. One day was designated for each particular family to bring their wood sacrifice. They would also bring voluntary burnt sacrifice. The occasion was called the Day of the Wood Sacrifice. It was celebrated as a festival for the families bringing the wood. On this day, the families were forbidden to deliver mournful eulogies and the season of fast. They were also not allowed to perform work on this day. It was like a yontif to them. This was the custom. Even the private individual who donated wood or logs for the pile of the altar are forbidden to deliver mournful eulogies and to cease fast. They are also not allowed to perform work on this day. This was the custom. My friends, Korban Eitzim, nobody knows about this. It's not in the pasuk. No verse for Korban Eitzim. This was a rabbinical enactment that the Chachamim wanted to honor those who brought the wood. What's called in Allah a Hechsher Mitzvah. Those who made it possible for everybody else to enjoy the Beis Hamikdash were the guys who brought the wood. They are the real heroes of the Beis Hamikdash. How was this Beis Hamikdash in function a whole year for all the sacrifices and all the fire that was burning on the altar, etc.? It was all because of these guys. These guys who brought the wood. It's a great holiday. That was the last family, Tubab, who brought the wood. And Lo Yehoyu Yom Tovim Ki Yisrael, there were no greater holidays by the Jewish people. Ki Chamisha Asa B'Av, like the 15th day of Av, was the last family who brought the wood. Yom Kippur. I like Yom Kippur. Because without those guys who brought the wood, you wouldn't have Yom Kippur forgiveness. Because you wouldn't be able to bring a sacrifice. You might have a lot of animals. You might have a lot of, but you wouldn't be able to do it without the guy who brought the wood. What was so special about that? So he brings down a beautiful story in the Gemara. Agrifas, in the Medrash, Agrifas HaMelech, King Agrifas sought to offer up thousands Oila offering in a single day. He decided to pick a day. He was a king in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. He decided a certain day, he sent a message to the Kohen Gadol. He said, listen, you're going to have to close your service for the day because I am sending thousands of animals on this day. I want to celebrate and I need to have a day. You need to give me this day. And please, since I'm going to bring 1,000 to sacrifice, you cannot let anybody else. Don't let anybody else bring a sacrifice. He sent the message, he said, let no one bring today except for me because you're going to have to bring all these sacrifices. It's going to be a busy day. So what happened was, on that day, poor man came in to the Beis Hamikdash with 2 turtle doves in his hand. And he said to the priest, offer these up. The priest answered, and the Kohen said to him, I would love to offer it up, but we have a problem, a technical problem. The king, Agrifas is commanded to let no one bring any offering today except me. What should we do? He's king. It's good to be king. The poor man said to the Kohen, my master, high priest, I capture 4 every day. One I offer up 2, and I sustain by 2. I bring the sacrifice every day. This is what I do. That's all I can gain is 4 total doves. If you don't offer them up, you will cut off my sustenance. This is my livelihood. I feel this is my livelihood. I give every day 2 total doves, and I take home for my wife too. And this is my life. What should Kohen Gadol do? So he took them and he offered them. The Kohen took the 2 total doves. Rachmanis and this poor guy. And he brought us a carbon. It appeared to Agrippas in a dream, the offering of the poor person in a dream that night. Agrippas had a dream, the king had a dream, that this poor man, his offering was more important than all his thousands of animals. Sent a message to the high priest. Did I not instruct you that no one should bring any offering today except for me? What kind of chutzpah do you have to go against the king? Master, the king, a poor man came. Listen, you're right. But this is a story that happened. This poor man came with 2 total doves, and he said, offer these up. I said to him, the king has commanded me, saying to me, let no one bring up the offering except for me. The poor person said to me, I capture four every day. I offer 2, and I sustain by 2. If you do not bring the offering me, you will cut off my sustenance. Was I not to offer them up? I've done. To him, Agrippas, he was a good king. He said, everything you did properly. If that's the story, then you did the right thing. There was an incident involving a woman who brought a handful of fine flour. The priest degraded her, saying, see what these women offer up? These is the minimal offering that it can be eaten by a boy. What do you bring to the Beis Hamikdash? Where's the beef? Bring me some flour. What are we gonna, how much, what are we gonna gain out of this? What is the minimal offering you can offer up? Bring me a dove. Bring me a cow. Bring me something. I don't have anything. I'm poor. Gemara says it appeared to the priest in a dream. He had a dream that night. And the message came to him and said, do not scorn her, for it is as if she's offered up her very soul. Stories highlight to us, self-understood, that there's giving with ego and there's giving selfless. There's giving with ego. I'm not, for any poor person or any organization, it is needed. I'm not denying that people shouldn't give for the plaque or for the reward or award or for the recognition. There's nothing wrong with that. But then there is giving for Gemilas Chasadim. There's the concept of giving for no reason whatsoever. For no gain, for no ego. So Agrippas learned the lesson. He wanted to make a proclamation. I'm giving 1,000 of that. This is my day. My day is this day. Everybody should know Agrippas is coming, the king is coming, and he's giving thousands of sacrifices. What a great king, what a honorable king, what a righteous king he was. And then the Eibusha told him, no, thank you, but this woman, this man's 2 total doves that he does every day was greater than yours. Nobody knew about him. It was 2 total doves. Who would even think about him? There was no great sacrifice. There was no great, but it was his soul. It was giving from his soul. He was giving what he could give. That's the lesson Agrippas learned as a king. And it's not important only that what you gained from the sacrifice, the amount of what you gain from it, it's what you give. Gemilas Chasadim. It's the concept of what you give more than what you gain. So therefore, the Rebbe says in text number 11, the actual wood donated to the temple was not a sacrifice. Rather, it was a necessary element for the fire that burned on the altar. It was not even a carbon. It was the burn. It was the fire. It was the wood that burnt. The actual sacrifice that burnt on the wood was not property of the wood donor. Rather, they were property of the entire Jewish people. there is an even greater observation to point out. This donation was performed with great joy, so much so that on the day that each family donated, they were considered a holiday. And that's the beauty of the lesson of the Korban Eitzim. The Chazal, the sages said that the day that they brought the wood, which was not a sacrifice even, which was going to be under somebody else's sacrifice, which is going to help somebody else's sacrifice, and nobody's going to know that it was your wood. Nobody's going to know who gave the wood. There's not a plaque on the wood. Nobody's going to know who gave the wood. Nobody's going to know when this wood was given. Nobody knows. But that is a great holiday. That's Gemilas Chasadim. That's the concept of the power of Gemilas Chasadim. The meaning of giving something to somebody, not for one's own personal ego, not for one's own personal gain, not for one's personal recognition, but because he wants to help somebody without any recognition, without any gain. Gemilas Chasadim, when a person comes to me, asks me for a loan, is greater than me giving him money as a charity. Because when I give him money as a charity, he knows that I gave him money as a charity, and without me, he wouldn't be able to survive. I give him a gemach. I tell him, here, I'm giving you $1,000, but I want we're going to pay it back. I want to give it to help you to go out there and be successful. That's a greater act, because I'm getting it back. I don't deserve any thank you. And you're not allowed to thank a person that gives you a loan. It can be a concept of interest. You got the money back. You don't deserve a thank you when you got the money back. The money that you gave, you got back. So you didn't do anything. You didn't get the interest, but you got it back. When I give you charity, I'm not expecting to get anything back. I'm not getting anything back. Oh, wow, you gave something that you're not getting back. One of the acts of Gemilas Chasadim, the analogy of Gemilas Chasadim, when you go to a funeral, you're not getting anything back. The person that you went to the funeral for cannot even say thank you. Cannot thank you for coming for this funeral, this person that you were going to the funeral. He cannot thank you. You're not getting anything back. I'm going there because it's a mitzvah to go avodas hames. Or a wedding. I'm going to a wedding. I'm actually giving a gift. Like, what am I getting back? I'm getting back the joy of somebody else's joy. To uplift a chassan and kala. That's how I'm going for this guy. When I'm going to visit the sick, what am I going to do? I'm not expecting to get something for the sick. I'm not expecting to get something back. I'm going to uplift another person. Important what I'm going to receive. That's why it's Gemilas Chasadim. It's not just charity, it's an act of kindness. It's a true act of kindness. Or it calls it a chesed shalemes. It's a true act of kindness because it's a chesed that has no return officially. In these eitzim, there's no return. I'm bringing the wood. The other guy's getting the return. He's bringing the sacrifice, and he's going to be forgiven through my wood. I'm not getting anything seemingly. I'm getting Gemilas Chasadim. I'm getting a mitzvah. I'm getting a true act of kindness, which is reward is above my own gain. Rebbe explains it in this kind of analogy in text number 12. My great-grandfather, it's Tzfidek Rebbe says, my great-grandfather, Tzemach Tzedek, asked, what is the purpose of Chassidut? And my great-grandfather didn't ask, what is Chassidus? Because for that, he obviously knew. He knew that Chassidus is godly wisdom that is the inner working of Torah. So he knew what Chassidus was. Rather, his question, what is the purpose of Chassidus? Answered, the entire purpose of Chassidus is to change one's character. Sounds like great. What does that mean? He continued. A person's first order of work is with the eye to make an honest assessment of who they are and what they are. Who am I? The correct answer is I'm a godly soul, a share of God himself. I'm literally godness, I'm not I. Therefore, a person must know that exactly that this I is. So if you understand the statement, if you understand who the real I is, so then there's no I. In English, we make the capital I. I is always a capital. Because I is always egotistical. Chassidus tells us, no, you got to break that I. If you really want to know, if I really want to know who I am, break the I. Diminish the I, diminish the ego. It's not about me. It's about God. It's not about me giving. It's about the concept of God. The Eibishter brought me to the world so that I would be able to give. I would be a giver. I'm doing the shlichus. I'm doing the mission of God. I'm not doing my mission. I'm doing God's purpose in the world. So it's not important who I am. I'm just a shliach. I'm a messenger. It's me the capability to help others. God. So God made me, thank God. I became the messenger of God to be Gemilas Chasadim. So you don't have to thank me. Thank God. Don't thank the messenger. Thank God. He's the one who really needs to be thanked in all the acts of kindness that I do. All to break that I, namely those matters that the ego is consumed with and what the ego wants. This is a particular program of introspection is akin to plowing, to plowing. It burrows into the heart and breaks through like stone-like coldness of the heart. It creates the possibility to thereafter plant the seeds of work, so that a person finally is able to plant good and healthy seeds. So the more we can break the ego, the more we can give egolessly, the more we can do gemilas chasadim, not a tzedakah, charity. I'm not taking away from charity. We need that too. But the more we can do gemilas chasadim, to take away, to be like the korban eitzim, like the Jews who gave for the wood in the temple. The more we can do it that way, the better it will be. The better it will be, the more powerful it will be. That's the concept of that's really the concept of accomplishing in the Beis Hamikdash. Leket shikra and peah. That's going back a full circle back to Rashi. Rashi says, why does the Torah put leket shikra and peah in middle of all the sacrifices? To tell us, to teach us an unbelievable lesson. Because just like certain sacrifices, and the Beis Hamikdash itself was there not for anybody, but for the revelation, but the purpose of God in this world. That's the power of Gemilas Chasadim. You can accomplish it. You can accomplish the building of the Beis Hamikdash by doing Gemilas Chasadim. Actually accomplished the building of the Beis Hamikdash, because the building of the Beis Hamikdash was the concept of revelation of God in the world, and that's true Gemilas Chasadim. Tzedakah might be a little bit strings attached. You're looking for the honor, you're looking for the recognition, you're looking for the ego, but Gemilas Chasadim, you're not looking for anything. You're not gaining, you're not going to gain anything. You're basically going to gain the purpose of what God put you in the world and gave you that talent. And gave you that's why Gemilas Chasadim is not only money. Gave you that talent, gave you that capability, gave you that time to be able to go to a funeral, be able to uplift a chasar kala, to be able to loan somebody money or give somebody a job or give somebody a good word. That's why in Maimonides, in text number 13, it says the greatest level, higher than all the rest. The Maimonides gives you the eight steps of charity. He says the greatest is to fortify a fellow Jew and give him a gift or a loan, form of a partnership with him, or find work for him until he's strong enough so that he does not need to ask others for sustenance. Of this, it says, if your kinsman being in straits comes to you, under your authority, comes to you, and you hold him as though as a resident alien, let him live by your side. That's what the pasuk says. The pasuk, strengthen the alien, the one who lives near you. Let him live with you. Let him live side by side with you. That is to say, hold him up so he will not fall and be in need. Make him back the mensch he is, or the mensch he could be. That's the greatest form of charity. Don't make the person constantly be needy for my charity. So he has to come constantly to ask more money and feel like a taker constantly. Let him become himself an established individual. Let him become a giver. A giver. Medrash, it says it in a beautiful way. Text number 14 on page 50. The Medrash says as follows. King David said before God, Master of the universe, let this world sit before you, and you ought to even things out. David HaMelech, people didn't start yesterday. David HaMelech says to God, you know what? Why can't everybody just have everything? Why can't the world, why is there need for poor people in the world? Without level the rich and the poor. Let everybody have everything. Why does there need to be this giver and taker? And God replied, if I were to do that, how would people ever know goodness and kindness? Interesting, and the Rebbe explains that there's two expressions here. There's an expression of chesed, goodness and kindness. To have both things, goodness and kindness. If all are equal, poor or rich, who would be able to do kindness? And the sages tell us over here that the Eibush is not only talking about money. Goodness and kindness can have a very wealthy man who needs to have goodness and kindness. Everybody in the world needs something. Needs to have, are poor in something. Whether he's wealthy in money, he's poor in health, or poor in emotions, or poor in wisdom, or has poor in struggles. That's telling you, I created the world so that humans would not only give charity, they would be good, they would be kind. It will be uplifting to others. And that's truly the concept of goodness and kindness. It's more than just the money. That's what the Gemara says. If a person gives a person $1, he did the mitzvah tzedakah. Poor man asks for charity and you give him money, not important how much money you give him money, you did the mitzvah. But if you say a good word, if you give him a good word, you uplift him. You tell him, oh, I want to help you. I hope that you will one day go out of this and God will give you the cake. I'll give him a mefaisa, give him a good word. Don't just throw the dollar to him. Here, you're poor. I have the money. You're nobody. Somebody. You're just like me. God should bless you. to get out of this situation. Yep. 8 mitzvahs, 11 mitzvahs, when it's not important, double, triple the amount of the tzedakah. Because in essence, you're giving the person his his decency. You're not diminishing his value. You compassion. Compassion is to uplift somebody else. Chesed is to help somebody. But that might not be uplifting. You're just helping him, but he's going to be back in the same situation because he's basically maybe doesn't know how to get out of the situation. Compassion uplifts the other person. That just helps him. It comes to him and tells him, let's figure out a way to get out of this. Right. That's a loan, or that's a job. That's I'm right. The highest level is a loan or a job. Figure out a way how to get out of this. Expression in the world. You can give a guy a fish and you can teach him how to fish. There's a question?
That's it. That's the highest form of charity, to teach him how to that he won't need the dollar.
Correct. That's the ultimate level. That's what we need to do. So we need to do that. That's Gemilas Chasadim. That's not only giving him something, but giving him his worth. That's the beauty. So you will not need me. I'm not interested. It's not about me. It's about you. That's Gemilas. So charity is more, it could be about me. I'm the giver. You're the taker. And that's it. You're the taker. But really, I'm the giver and I'm the taker. Because your success is my success. That's Gemilas Chasadim. That I'm not only a giver, I'm also receiving. Because I want you to be successful. I care about you. That's compassion. I care about you to be successful. But your success is making me happy.
My father was not so optimistic. He said, if you had a world where there was no poverty, in 6 months, you'd have rich and poor.
So thank God the Gemara disagrees with that. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu says there'll always be poor. Sounds like a very terrible thing. There'll always be poor in the land. There'll always be the concept of people that need other people. It's relationships. It'll become a very selfish world. The world. A world where people would help other people. And even if they're going to gain out of it, I mean, that's better than nothing. We should help each other, even if we're gaining the accolades and the rewards and the man of the year or whatever. Again, at least you're helping people. But what is the ultimate? That I am not here for I'm not here for the glory. I'm not doing it for the glory. I'm doing it. That's what God sent me in the world for. To help others and others to help me. We're in the same situation. I need others and others need me. And together we build a beautiful world. The Rebbe ends, we're coming to the end of this class. The Rebbe ends off, it becomes a full circle. And text number 15a, page number 50, the Rebbe says, the common denominator between the three mitzvahs of leket, shikha, and payah is not only in the sense that the donor gives away a personal item. Rather, the donation is quite perfect. For the donor has absolutely no personal gain. He has no personal gain from this situation. There's nobody there to thank him. There's nothing. He's not going to get anything back from it. There's no personal gain. So he or she is not allowed to choose to whom the donation to go. They have to leave it there. They have to walk away.
But Rabbi, if you teach a man how to fish, don't you have a different kind of personal gain?
What kind of gain do I have? He's going to become a fisher. He's going to be able to make business and be successful. I'm not gaining. If I charge him to teach him how to fish, then you might be right. I got personal gain. But if I just teach him how to fish, then I have no personal gain.
You have not a monetary person, but you realize that you've helped somebody to.
Okay. Now you imagine. Okay, that might be a little bit ego. You might still have a little bit, but in the leket shichem pei, there's no ego. I have this land. I cut the corners of it. I leave the land. Who's going to come there? I don't know. If anybody's going to come there, there's no gain. I have no gain. That's why I said the best way to do the loan is to give it to the organization. Again, if I give a guy a personal loan, so now I might have some little bit gain. Might not be monetary, but it's I helped you. I'm a big knacker. So it's still a little bit of a gain. I agree, and that's why I said the best way to do it is you give it. There's an organization, a gemach. You give that money to the gemach and let them loan out to whoever they're going to loan out. You're not going to know who got your loan, your money, and the guy who got the loan not going to know that he got it from you. And there's no personal gain. There's no personal gain. And that's the ultimate way, because you're giving it for the sake of giving. You no ego involved. Let's end off. Text number 15, then you'll say what you want to say. Text 15b. That ends off this whole sikha. We can now understand the precision of the language of the Rashi, the metaphor, akin to building the temple, as opposed to akin to the temple service. Construction of the temple is hard work, and the benefit had by all Jews, as opposed to one offering their own personal sacrifice inside the temple, a matter of personal gain. The building of the Mishkan, the building of the Beis Hamikdash is for the Klal Yisrael. It's for the whole Jewish nation. We should all want to build this Beis Hamikdash, not for any personal gain. If you're going to say, I want to build the Beis Hamikdash to bring a sacrifice, there you got your personal gain. But if you say, I want to build the Beis Hamikdash, concept, it's a purpose for the Klal Yisrael, for the general Jewish nation, has nothing to do personal with me. That's why we should do more Gemilas Chasadim. The Gemara says, when the Rabbi Yeshua was sad that he saw the destruction of the temple, he said, no, do Gemilas Chasadim. By doing Gemilas Chasadim is you're building the Beis Hamikdash. Because the Beis Hamikdash, there's no personal gain. The Beis Hamikdash was built with the money of the Jewish nation. There was no plaques in the Beis Hamikdash. Like you come to temples today where there's hundreds of plaques. Again, I'm not against that also. It's a need. Because if we're going to wait for people to give without any ego, you're not going to be able to do it. So there has to be, I'm not arguing with you, there's at least a Baruch Hashem, they're giving to Jewish organizations and for Jewish causes. I'm not Hashem taking away from that. And it's a need. And the Gemara even says there's nothing wrong with announcing the donor's name. It's not a sin. It's actually could be a good thing to inspire others to give. But we all have to realize what's the ultimate concept in giving? What's the ultimate aspect is Gemilas Chasadim, is acts of kindness. Acts of kindness, and therefore it's not only about money, but acts of kindness where you uplift somebody, you help somebody, you give to somebody, whether it's an organization, whether it's a simple person, whether it's a good word, for no personal gain, no agenda.
I think that if
and let me just finish off, and then you can give your drushes, but you'll give your interpretation. I'm not running away, okay. But that is the beauty of what the Rebbe says. That the Rashi says that we throw in this law of leket shichem pei, dafka this mitzvah, not tzedakah. Not even we say the Torah doesn't say you shall give tzedakah or do another mitzvah. The Torah says explicitly this mitzvah. Or leket shichem pei, because leket shichem pei is not the tzedakah. It's gemilas chasadim. It's the concept of an act of kindness where in this situation there's no giver. There is a giver, but nobody knows who the giver is. There's no taker because nobody knows who the taker is, and there might be no taker. Maybe nobody will come into your field, but whoever comes into the field comes into the field, whether he's rich or poor. Right? Because whether he's rich or poor, he can come into your field and take the leket shichem pei. So nobody has to know who the rich and poor is, because the true concept of giving goodness and kindness has nothing to do with the rich and poor. It has to do with those that are in need of it and those that don't need it. And there's always a need by every person, whether he's rich or poor. There's always a concept of Gemilas Chasadim. We all can be recipients of Gemilas Chasadim, acts of kindness and goodness. And we all can be givers of Gemilas Chasadim. Not everybody can be givers of charity because they don't have the money, but we all can be receivers. And some people don't need tzedakah, Baruch Hashem, because they have enough money. But we all could be part of Gemilas Chasadim. We all can receive something from others, acts of goodness and kindness. And we all could be givers of Gemilas Chasadim, acts of goodness, guys. And that's why the Torah puts in this mitzvah in the middle of the story, because by doing this mitzvah, you're going to bring a great yontif to the Jewish nation, because you're going to build the Beis HaMikdash. By actually doing this mitzvah, you're going to actually build the Beis HaMikdash. I wish you all a beautiful and wonderful and happy day.
I think that